operation. So, I mean, they have to pay for those copies.
Okay.
Okay? So every salaries and expense account that sends somebody off to a Xerox machine and has somebody Xerox it can receive that money. It comes in as an offsetting collection to your salaries and expense account.
So in other words, if your budget for VA for, 100 or like 100 people
Fine.
is like 1 million,
Fine.
okay? And then you charge fees for making copies. So that 100 million minus, if you collected 10,000. So in essence, it's 100 million minus, let's just say 1 million. 100,000 minus 1,000. So in essence, your VA is 99?
Nope.
No, okay. I just want.
Okay. Okay.
It's still
What
100.
happened? It is still 100. It's still 1,000.
Correct.
However, the offsetting receipt comes in, offsetting collection, excuse me, comes in, is credited to the account that actually does serve as a minus.
Okay.
However, you have the authority to spend. We talked about when the law provides, it will be spent. Okay? What are you spending? You're not spending that appropriation. You're spending something we're going to get to in a minute. The spending authority from the offsetting collection. So in effect, what has happened is you started at 1,000.
Correct.
You have 10 more because of the spending authority from the collection.
Uh-huh.
So you have 1,000 plus 10, but you also have the collection, so that's a minus 10, so you're back down to 1,000. 1,000 plus 10 minus 10, 1,000.
Okay, all right. So where does the 10,000 go? I mean, in essence, if you collected that, where did it go? I mean,
Into your account.
It's in my account. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? What is a deficit or surplus? Simple. A deficit is the amount by which outlays exceed receipts for a fiscal year. What's the outlay? A surplus is the amount by which receipts exceed outlays in a fiscal year. We have had surpluses. In 2008, 69, last 40 years, there have been 5. Okay? It was 1 in 69, it was 4 from 2000 to 2004. Somewhere. So sometimes we do get more money in than we spend. Okay. What is debt? The principal amount owed by the federal government to people who have loaned it money to pay for past deficits. A surplus is used to repay debt. A deficit is financed by new borrowing, i.e. more debt. Currently, the debt outstanding is $9,400 billion. Yeah, $9,400 billion. That's the amount of debt outstanding. You say the federal government then owes a lot of debt, owes a lot of money out. How are we solving? Most of that debt is to ourselves, either the government or individuals. Social Security trust funds are invested in federal securities. The savings bonds, I guess kids still buy savings bonds in school. The savings bonds we used to buy in school, that's all part of federal debt. Okay. Questions? What is budget authority? Budget authority, or BA, we use that term interchangeably, is the authority to incur financial obligations that will result in an outlay. All those words eventually become important. But quite simply, if you You need budget authority in order to buy something. VA comes in 4 basic forms. VA comes in 3 dimensions. Specific amounts, for specific purposes, and for specific time periods. What are those 4 forms of VA? One is appropriations. Appropriations permit obligation and payment or outlay of money. Contract authority permits obligations in advance of an appropriation to pay or in anticipation of collections and cannot be dispersed. Borrowing authority permits the obligation against the authority to borrow. Disbursements can be made once amounts are actually borrowed, generally from the Treasury. The spending authority from the offsetting collections, which permits payments using the offsetting collections. Okay, appropriations. Most of you are familiar with the 13, I guess it's still 13, Annual Appropriations Acts, which makes money available for most of the operations of our accounts. But that word appropriation means a lot. The word appropriation means more than that. The Constitution of the United States requires that no money shall be removed from the Treasury except in consequence of an appropriation. So in addition to what is provided in those annual appropriation acts, and what may be permitted by an authorization act, for example, Social Security, payment of Social Security checks doesn't depend on the enactment of the annual appropriation acts, because in permanent legislation, it says anybody who meets certain requirements shall be paid money from Social Security. And they never have to worry about a shutdown, right? Because of that permanent authority. But that was an appropriation that was made in order for that to happen. Okay? That appropriation happened in an authorization act and not in the appropriations act that we're familiar with. Also, when any other payment, again, no money can be removed except in consequence. Under contract authority, we have the ability to go out and incur an obligation, but you don't have any authority to pay it. Why in the world would you have authority to incur an obligation